Idiocracy is a comedic 2006 movie I saw a little bit ago with the wifey that was a social commentary on a future where Americans are progressively dumber. It follows an average Joe who accidentally gets frozen for 500 years and ends up in 2505. I hate focusing on aesthetics, but that will be the point of this video, but I want to explain why. First of all, the movie is quite funny in a number of ways, but what immediately doesn't age well is its usage of the R slur and F slur. While I was able to look past it for the sake of understanding the movie, and I remember well that this is in fact just how people talked, and I mean, they nailed it, it's obviously problematic and lame. Acknowledging that aside, I want to talk about the real grievance I had regarding its language framework. The movie's humor comes from both the accurate reflection of how dumbasses talk, but also the ridiculous political traditions like rehabilitation being a monster truck slam, or that the president did executive orders on a live stream. But I would actually go so far as to say that this is not intentional political commentary. The movie's basis of humor stems completely out of the language used and the dumbass mentality that everybody has. It is an unfortunate coincidence that what 2006 thought would be the funniest, dumbest presidential move imaginable is literally what occurred on day one of Trump's term. But again, the political commentary isn't the point of this film, it's the social commentary, and I have a disagreement on the basis of its framework. Two things in particular I want to point out that kind of prove to me this movie was written by someone exactly like my dad's archetype, the old head, liberal, social conservative. One, language. Using language as a means of showing how people are dumb is one thing, but the film makes it explicit who is providing the dumb language. Inner city slang and redneck hick shit. I'm sure they felt a little more inclusive for throwing in redneck shit in there, but bruh, it's so blunt how they just show everybody in the movie speaking in Ubonics or even just swearing in general as a means of displaying stupidity. There's only one redneck in the whole movie, and he is a judge. Everybody else is speaking AAAV, and they don't even try to hide it. That's literally what is supposed to be funny. For reference, my father, who is an old-headed liberal, hates swears and sees them as a sign of lower intelligence. He was raised to think that. His only complaint about my first Daredevil video was that the swears took away from the point, which is only true if you have a mini aneurysm every time you hear a swear. Old people on God just think this way, dead ass. It's a relic mindset from a bygone era where that was how you could display or teach casual racism against black people. They talk funny, these inner city minorities. They must be stupid. More than that, the perpetuation of that kind of vibes-based judgment on minorities was recognized by minorities to the point where minorities had to adopt the same disdain and avoidance for tattoos and explicit language because they knew that being associated with that could mean the difference between racial profiling or securing a job or promotion. I want to highlight that I did think the movie was funny, and at least when it came to writing how people swore, they nailed how people actually talk. I compared it to anime, how sometimes the translation of swear words feels weird. Like nobody says bastard in real life, but it's satisfying when anime like One Piece use words like dumbass and other words that feel more natural in the context. But I dislike the framework the movie presents its premise through, utilizing an intelligence indicator explicitly defined at the start of the movie that demeans the perception of the populace on whether or not they talk like a black person enough. I do not think I'm being too woke, especially when this dumbass old person mindset is extended into tattoos, which is the second thing I wanted to point out. In the future, there are no ID cards. You have an ID tattooed on your arm, and when the characters were talking about it for the first time, they were like, yo, you're not tatted up, where are your tats, bro? You're not tatted, where are your tats, bro? It was not a political commentary on fascism in 1984 and branding. It was literally a comedic, dumbasses like tattoos, old person framework that is so cringe and so lame. Any political commentary displayed is accidental, and they kept it in because it was accidentally a double entendre. But if they had thought of anything funnier, they would have changed it. The film was not meant to give political commentary. I wanted to highlight this and make a video on it because in this day and age, in big 2025, this kind of dumbass old person from 2006 mindset is not only still prevalent, it has become the basis of our current system of vibes-based, team sport-oriented politics to begin with. It's made crazier to me now that I remember that these were the young, hip writers utilizing that busted framework to begin with. President Terry Crews signing executive orders is not a legitimate attempt to predict the future. It's just a coincidence that the current standards for political conversation is that low in the gutter that your average conservative is eating that live stream shit up. The disdain and biases against tattoos, which is again the framework of part of the humor of the movie, is now the vibes-based criteria which we use to deport legal Venezuelan Americans to the wrong country. You got a tattoo of a rose made of $100 bills. You must be a ganged up Mexican. Time to send you to El Mexico. There was that youth soccer coach who got deported to a prison labor camp in El Salvador on the basis of his Arsenal football team tattoo. That's not even his country, bro. He's not from there even. Those dumbass old heads and the current president that is a good 20 years older at least than your 50-year-old dad are still basing this backwards wrong century understanding about linguistics and self-expression as a valid reason to harass minorities. Long story short, yes, Idiocracy was a funny movie. It's scary how not just one thing, but a couple of things are now shit that our dumbass president has already done, like genuinely. And most importantly, I'd wanted to highlight that swears and tattoos are dumb mentality that now governs whether or not a given Hispanic is disappeared or not, especially without due process. I think that as a society, we have grown significantly less reactionary when it comes to the presence of tattoos and swears in our everyday existence. But that base of 55-plus-year-olds who were raised to look down on minorities, including themselves, and feel threatened by ink on somebody else's skin won't ever be able to unlearn these traits. Eventually, they will have to age out of existence, but we cannot wait that long. I mean, that relaxed, hands-off approach is totally a factor of why Trump or even Biden's bitch ass got elected in the first place. At some point, the reins need to be taken out of their hands and into the hands of a new generation, rather than the same one that's been in power since the 2000s and more often than not, way beyond. We're at the point in our societal development that unless we actively combat that kind of bare-bones, surface-level, meaningless, optics-oriented degradation of our peers, then that will be used as a justification for ruining somebody else's life legally.